Sinilah berhimpun warga siswa, menjunjung amanat, berilmu berbakti, bertulus setia mengisi harapan, insan bertakwa penunjang pribadi. Terharu tenaga mencapai kejayaan, sehati sejiwa beremak mimpi. Universiti Putra Malaysia, pembina wawasan gemilang. Universiti Putra Malaysia membentuk siswa cemerlang. Semarak namamu di sinar zaman, semerbak namamu di suara sanjungan, penyumbang bakti ke anak bangsa, pewaris sejati negara tercinta. Damai desa di permai kota, tersemat citramu semegah kenangan. Di darjat bangsa, di daulat negara, tersurat gasamu menjalan kemajuan.
Okay, imagine yourself driving on the highway at 120 km per hour. Smooth, fast, there's no need to step on the brake. Now, imagine there is construction in progress on the highway. What happens? You start to slow down your car and suddenly the traffic is bumper to bumper. Well, same thing in the form of water flowing in a river filled with vegetation. Vegetation becomes resistance to the river flow. They reduce the flow velocity, causing the water level to go higher up to the floodplains and cause flooding. This doesn't mean vegetation is all bad. Vegetation is able to stabilize the river banks and reduce erosion. They are also good for the ecosystem as they act as water filter. So, how do you decide how much vegetation is needed to preserve the environment and at the same time doesn't increase the flood extent? One way to do this is to represent the vegetation resistance in the form of roughness factors in a 2D model to see how the flow behaves due to vegetation. A dominant vegetation property that can represent this resistance is density. There have been many studies in measuring vegetation density, but none of them is applicable as they are time and cost-consuming. Can you imagine going to the field to measure vegetation one by one, or doing lab experiments to cover all vegetation types? No. This is where my research comes into the picture. My research aims to propose a quantitative methodology in measuring vegetation density for 2D flood modeling. How am I going to do this? I'm going to use a high-resolution satellite image and perform scientific image processing to classify the different densities. Based on the new parameters describing the different densities, I will develop a new formula to convert them into the roughness factors. These roughness factors can then be input in the 2D model to predict flow patterns and water levels. To verify the results, I'm going to compare them against historical flood events. Why is it so important? Well, this new practical framework will help land use planners and engineers in maximizing river management, focusing on vegetation maintenance in strategic areas. This in return will help protect the river and reduce the flood risk. A winning combo that will make both people and Mother Earth very happy. Thank you.
Can you imagine yourself suffering from a disease that rarely kills, but it makes you wish you were dead. During the Second World War, precisely, in 1943, Time Magazine International described it as, and I quote, "The disease rarely kills anybody, but it often makes the patient wish he were dead," unquote. That is Malta fever, undulant fever, or Mediterranean fever. But the scientists prefer to call it brucellosis. It is caused by a bacteria called Brucella. It affects animals as well as humans. In animals, it manifests as infertility and abortion on the farm. In humans, symptoms include headache, fever, joint and muscular pains all over the body, and even spontaneous abortion in pregnant women. Take note, this disease is transmitted from animals to man. And Malaysia imports thousands of animals every year from countries we know already have this disease. So my research was centered around finding out if this disease exists in the animal population in Malaysia as represented by goats, and also if it exists in the human population, and who are those who are more likely to have it, what we can do about it. How did we go about the research? We took blood from humans and animals, administered questionnaires. Our findings were very interesting. In the animal population, we found out that animal farms that introduced new animals from other places were 5 times more likely to have this disease than other farms. In the human population, we found out that animal farmers and those below the age of 40 were 7 times more likely to have this disease than the rest of the population. We also found out that those who drink unpasteurized milk were 5 times more likely to have this disease than the rest of the population. So the next time you visit a place like Penang, for example, and they offer you raw goat milk to drink, before you drink it, please think about brucellosis. What can we do in the light of these findings? I suggest a total ban on the importation of animals from countries we know already have this disease. I also suggest that we get rid of the animals with this disease and vaccinate the ones that don't have it. Prevention is better than cure. I suggest we re-educate our animal farmers on the hazards of this disease, because the other day we were at an animal farm, they gave us raw goat milk to drink, oblivious of the hazards. Fresh milk is good, but make sure it is pasteurized before you take it. The disease rarely kills, but does it kill? Unfortunately, in 2% of cases it does. I lost a colleague, Moses Birdling, to Malta fever. And we don't have vaccines for humans. Treatment takes many painful months. But if we can take more proactive measures, like I have suggested, we can stop this reluctant killer called Malta fever or brucellosis. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning everyone. Muslims and Jewish are prohibited from eating pork, and only pork-free product is allowed for them. I would like to share my story as a Muslim. This happened a lot on me. Whenever I thought of having chicken burgers, sausages or any halal meat products, I will sometimes wonder, would there be any pork in the food? Have you experienced the same thing? I know these days it is so difficult to identify meat adulteration with naked eyes. Not even pork will mix with chicken, but sometimes even horse will mix with beef. It is either intentionally or unintentionally added in order to increase the profit. Well, it's business, but both actions are really unethical. There were cases where in 2011, the Malaysian Islamic Development Department, JAKIM, has found traces of pig DNA in meat products supplied by a Penang-based company, which caused an immediate termination of their halal status, and followed by a case in March 2013, where halal chicken sausage served to students in central London schools were revealed to contain traces of pork as well. See, such a critical issue, isn't it? When we have been faced by these problems all the time, I feel like it is my obligation as a Muslim scientist to protect consumers from being deceived by irresponsible producers. Therefore, this is where my expertise came in handy, which I am very interested in halal CSI. My PhD focused in finding an alternative way for detection of pork in meat and meat products. Instead of using DNA, famous DNA, we use proteomics, meaning a protein-based approach by using 2-dimensional gel electrophoresis and mass spectrometry machine to search for unique protein and peptide that could match the pig protein in the food sample. More simply, I'm creating a unique pig biomarker which will act like a magnet to attract out pig protein in a very complex mixture of meat. This biomarker is not intended for public use. We are not going to sell it in the supermarket. But it is specially designed to assist government and authoritative bodies such as DAKIM in solving pork adulteration cases. Any food sample that is matched with our biomarker will be considered as non-halal. So next time, when suspicious meatball, nuggets, meat products, you name it, is received, we just extract out the protein, put them in the machine, and the result will be pop up on the screen. Easy, right? Thank you.